Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Open for Business webinar with Jeff Brown. We'll turn it over to our host, Deborah Weinswig and JoAnn Martin.
Thanks, Drew. Good morning and welcome to Open for Business. I'm your co-host, Deborah Weinswig, and I'm honored to be joined by my co-host, JoAnn Martin. She is the VP of Retail at Blue Yonder and has extensive strategic retail experience and a proven track record across apparel, footwear, and accessories, including L Brands, DSW, and Luxottica. In her role at Blue Yonder, she is the industry thought leader for retail. Her expertise also includes merchandise planning, item planning, assortment planning, allocation, and omni-channel inventory enablement. I'll turn the call now over to JoAnn for some opening remarks. Thanks, JoAnn.
Deborah, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here today. You know, we're seeing a lot of themes in retail and being in supply chain. The major theme that we hear continually from retailers is supply chain resilience. We talk about supply chain all day, but the reality is that's where the focus is right now. And there's four major areas that we're seeing this come across. Retailers are trying to figure out where is my inventory within my supply chain and how do I figure out where it is and how do I get it into my assortments. The other place we see it is in out of stocks and managing inventory and assortment plans that are happening. So those are two major discussions, but not to be forgotten are things such as pricing. When I come out of COVID, which I will come out of COVID, how should I be pricing my goods and how do I prevent myself from a price war to the bottom? Where's the most elasticity and how am I leveraging technology to do that? And last, but certainly not least, is workforce. We see articles all day long about workforce in the distribution centers, as well as in the stores when they start to open. So those are really the four themes that we're seeing being very prevalent now, both from a resiliency standpoint and learning from it, as well as coming out and operations that are changing.
That's very helpful. Thanks, JoAnn. We are very honored to have as our special guest, Jeff Brown. He is the Vice Chairman, President, and co-owner of NFI, which is a fully integrated supply chain solutions provider. Jeff is directly responsible for the company's real estate team and the global freight forwarding departments. He has a real passion for innovation based on many of our conversations. He also really focuses on efficiency and has some great insights there. And he also has a huge heart when it comes to his employees. Today, we are going to discuss how COVID-19 is affecting the retail supply chain, how retailers and NFI have changed and adapted from week one of the crisis to now, and how and when retailers should begin thinking about opening for business. As always, we'll have a transcript and video available on our site in 24 hours, and we'll launch some poll questions after we start the call. Lastly, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen during our conversation if you would like to ask a question. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jeff. Thank you very much for joining us today. Can you please tell our audience a little more about NFI for those who maybe don't know the full extent of what you do?
Good morning, and thank you, Deborah, for having me on the call here today. It's an honor. Real quick, just a little bit about NFI. We're a family-owned company that's in its 88th year. My two brothers and I make up the third generation of ownership at NFI, and we each have 3 kids, and so there's 9 possibilities for the 4th generation, 5 of which are in and 4 are on deck working outside the business today. To tell you exactly what NFI is, we are a transportation company and a distribution supply chain company. On the trucking side, we operate about 4,000 trucks in North America. Domestically, a lot of DC to store for retailers, and in today's world, a lot of DC to consumer in many cases. Our trucks typically go out 200 miles or less, and then there's a significant amount of business that goes beyond 200 miles, and we have a non-asset portfolio that we started about 10 years ago because our top clients said to us, okay, NFI, we'll give you all of our gravy business short haul out and back, but you still have to handle our business overall wherever it goes throughout North America. So with this non-asset portfolio gives us a view not only of what's happening with our customers, but what's happening with transportation overall in the marketplace, because we end up hiring all of our competitors to move our business that we don't move on our own trucks. And as you know, today there's a lot going on, especially with the virus and demand, and then also with the price of oil, and pricing is fluctuating every day in transportation today. Tying that in as the third line of business is our warehousing business. We operate 50 million square feet throughout North America for Fortune 2000, Fortune 1000 type clients. Lowe's is one of our largest customers, where we're the labor inside the warehouse. We're bringing the goods in, unloading them, sorting them, pick, pack, packaging them out to the customer. And we have been able to, during this virus, fortunately, maintain most of our workforce through this process. So the warehousing business, probably half the goods or 3/4 of the goods that come into these warehouses, many come from overseas. So we started an international business probably about 5-6 years ago, where we have an office over in Hong Kong, where we negotiate with the steamship lines over in Hong Kong to get cargo space on the ships. In the same way we have a broker non-asset component over here in the US, we have a broker operation where we hire trucking companies to go pick up the goods at the factories that are producing the goods, bring them to the port, put them on the ships, and then we manage that flow to the US ports. The next piece is when we get to the US port, we have a whole division called Cal Cartage that we bought 3 years ago that has 850 drivers at LA, Long Beach, Savannah, Houston, Norfolk, all the major ports in the country that pick up the goods at the port and bring them to the local warehouses or transload the goods from containers into vans and send them throughout domestically the US. So tying that all together, just to give you a vision, we actually have visibility and we have technology that shows that for our clients. If their goods are in Asia, if their goods are on a ship, if their goods are at the port, if they're in our warehouse, if they're on one of our trucks, or if they're one of our partners' trucks. And the idea is letting them have visibility to their inventory so that they can make decisions about where their goods are selling and where they aren't selling. And hopefully we can help provide that information to them and be more timely and hopefully reduce inventory costs for them along the way. Tying into all this is that as we got into the warehousing business, the last component, and probably one of the bigger growth components for us, has been the real estate portfolio. Because of so many customers trying to relook at their supply chain because of the new channel of e-commerce, we've been able to say, why don't we put more of an ownership position in the real estate that our customers are looking to go to? We have a whole engineering group that optimizes for our customers where they should be located based on where their markets are. And so today we have a portfolio of about 15 million square feet, a property management team, a development team, and a finance team to work on real estate opportunities. So what we're trying to do overall is offer a total solution for our clients. And to give you an idea, the depth and breadth of our organization today, we probably generate a little over $2 billion in revenue this past year. And then another, you got a real estate portfolio today that's probably close to $1 billion on top of that. So we're very excited to be here, and obviously it's a chance for us to overall in this kind of environment to really excel and hopefully bring some value to our client base out there. I know that was long-winded, but I felt like I had to share that with you.
No, that was great. So what are some of the biggest changes that you're seeing right now in supply chain? Which I know is a very open-ended question, but.
I would say this, that demand is up and down and it's unpredictable right now. Many of our retailers that have been affected by this have canceled orders, have pushed out orders. So trying to forecast demand and forecast our workforce to meet that demand has been up and down, very challenging. but we are there to support them as best we can. Another big important thing that's happened in the supply chain is there's been a supply chain that's developed unto itself for making sure that our workers, our drivers, our frontline people in the warehouses, where they are being treated fairly and safely with masks, with sanitizers, with gloves where appropriate, so that they are protected, and trying to eliminate fear in a society where you keep social distancing, but it's awfully tough sometimes when you've got hundreds of people in a particular building to make sure that social distancing takes place and that everybody feels good about it. So it's a change of how you're handling your lunches, how do you handle your breaks, how do you handle entry and exit. The whole supply chain has changed dramatically because of this virus for how you handle your people, in addition to what's happening with our customers at the same time.
Yeah, one of the things you were talking about at the beginning, Jeff, that I found really interesting is you talked about your ability to provide through technology visibility on orders to a lot of your customers. When you think about kind of your technology and where it sits today and all the disruptions we're seeing, where's a place where you feel like you wish you had more technology, or a place where it was more enhanced than it is today?
That's a great question. One of the areas, there's a lot of software that we have, and in some ways we feel that software, if it was more and more of the technology is up in the cloud today, would be better for us, and that is the future. And the flexibility for people throughout the organization and our customers to use accessing the cloud is a heck of a lot easier than some of the technology access that we have today, and we're working on that. And we've got a great team of IT that are constantly working on that transition.
How do you see your relationships with technology providers maybe shifting or changing during this time? Have your expectations shifted of technology, or do you think the current situation dictates that?
Yeah, I think what's happened with technology, because the world is changing so fast, and technology is changing so fast as well, a lot of the contracts, a lot of the pricing, we feel has to change, because the contracts where they want you to go out for 3 years and 4 years and 5-year deals, it's crazy to do that when the world is changing so fast and technology improvements are happening every day. So we think contracts are going to be much shorter. We also believe pricing needs to be tiered pricing based on success rates have to happen, and there'll be also more transparency between the vendor and ourselves and how we work together to achieve the common goal of winning on both sides.
Jeff, I know you're very close to many of your clients. As you talk to them, what services of yours are they finding most important right now? And can you also talk about this idea, which I think is really interesting, this one view of the inventory?
Yeah. I think our biggest area of opportunity for our clients today, and really during this pandemic, we've been challenged by our clients, is our engineering group. We have a team of probably close to 50 now engineers throughout the country, and they're asking us to relook at their business because costs are so important to everybody. How do you cut costs in an environment like this? How do you see the future? And I can give one example, if that's okay. We do a lot of work for a company called Hasbro Toys. And the toy business, right, wrong, or indifferent, probably is not considered essential, or is not the first thing when the country does open up that people are going to buy a lot of toys. And if they do buy toys, the toys that they're going to focus on are primarily maybe not the higher priced toys with so many people out of work, but maybe the board games come back, or what, as opposed to the electronic games. And so we operate 2 million square foot warehouses for them around the country. And they are concerned about how do they preserve their cost structure during these times. So we were able to optimize through our engineering group that instead of taking up as much space as they are, it's much cheaper to go vertical versus horizontal. And so we're going to rack the warehouses, and they're going to open up a couple 100,000 square feet in each building and have significant savings for them. And they are super excited about this solution for them. And that's just one example of a solution that we try to offer to all of our clients, either through technology or tools in the engineering group that really bring value to them. And hopefully, you know, they're reducing their costs, and we're showing our value as a vendor to them and as a partner to them. And again, I've said it earlier, there's a transparency with our customers and with our vendors today that is much different since this whole pandemic has started, that I think is great for us in a position to really bring value to the customer.
In light of that, how do you feel your customers are innovating at the same time, right? You're showing, you know, some amazing innovation as it relates to your relationships with them. How are they changing their relationships with their customers, and how does that impact an NFI?
So I would say that they are changing their impact, their relationship with their customers with how we can deliver, how we can source the goods for them, and information is key. Trying to help them forecast their business. We can only do so much. They know what their demand need is. We don't know that as well, but whatever information, it's much more timely and much more communicative than it had been in the past. And we try, once we get that information, we try to adapt our operation to meet the needs of our clients.
Jeff, you're in a very unique position because you get to see across many sub-verticals within retail. You get to see the grocery sector, the department stores, retailers, and a lot of different avenues of business. How do you see each of those subsections responding to the back half of the year? What kind of conversations are you starting to hear about how they're adjusting their businesses and their flows? Any insight you can provide there?
It's interesting. The retail sector is divided into a couple groups. You've got the food-related, grocery-related group, and they are going very strong throughout the rest of the year. And in fact, obviously, it's been a surge over the last month, but I think it's leveled out a little bit since that time. But they are looking to continue to grow, and we're getting RFPs from companies like Kroger to expand our business, Aldi, another one. So the grocery business is going to be fine. When you look at the apparel business, a lot of that business has been impacted. Companies like TJX and Kohl's, that we do a lot of work for, they've been shut down, and Best Buy is another one where they actually, you know, there was a big push that we're receiving goods right now because that was right after the Chinese New Year and a little bit after the virus went through China. There was an incremental push that's hitting the U.S. right now with goods coming into the ports. And that's a good thing, but unfortunately the apparel guys have somewhat canceled a lot of May and June's orders. So we see retail apparel being severely impacted, and hopefully it comes back. They're reforecasting for the rest of the year, and I don't think any of the apparel guys are feeling too great about the rest of the year. I will tell you this, there is an opportunity right now for the discount guys like a TJX, like a Burlington Co. or Burlington Stores, where they are buying up a ton of this excess inventory that is coming in while the big department stores are closed, and will they reopen? Who knows? So they will be the winners in this outcome from this. And I think staying really close to the off-price retailers, they will be very strong. Five Below is another one that will end up very strong out of this as well. So, and then the other one is the home improvement guys that we see, and that's like a Lowe's and a Home Depot, and they've been very strong. Maybe that's because the people are at home and seeing all the things that are wrong with their houses, but their business seems to be holding up, and they have strong plans for the rest of the year in the home improvement side as well. So I hope that gives a little vibe.
It's fantastic. Thank you.
For how we see things going.
To follow up on that question, sounds like we'll see grocers and many of the hard goods in much better shape than the discretionary or non-essentials. In light of that, how does that inventory that's in the stores right now get salvaged, and how does that impact the whole supply chain? Do we see pack away till next spring? That's got to cause a lot of disruption. Can you help us think that through?
Yeah, so that's happening now. We've been approached by many clients for either they missed the spring season to sell because their stores were closed, and they're looking to either sell that product to a discounter or to basically store it for a year, 6 months to a year, 9 months, and they're looking for temporary space out there in the marketplace. And that's a huge winner for industrial. It's not something that as an industrial real estate owner that you try to sign 1-year deals. You try to sign 3, 5, and 10-year deals, but it's in a market where there's a lot of uncertainty. Knowing that there's those type of short-term wins, the marketplace is taking advantage of that in a big way.
Have you ever seen anything like this before in terms of looking for this temporary space, whether it's for a year, et cetera? Or can you compare it to anything else you've seen in your experience?
Yeah, what was it? Well, back in 2000, when the change of the century and everybody was stocking up on water and supplies back at the turn of the century, that was probably the last time we saw that, and that really never transpired the way we thought, although everybody was in advance of that in a big way. But that's probably the closest that we see on that.
Thank you.
So e-commerce is really booming right now. We're seeing massive growth within that space. How is that redefining kind of the supply chain and how retailers are leveraging resources from you? There's the concept of dark stores and different concepts of deployment. Are you seeing any of that push back into the warehousing and transportation space?
Yes. On the e-commerce side, we've had calls from companies, investors, grocery chains. How can we set up dark stores in cities where they don't have grocery stores? And they're typically looking at high net worth communities in which to start this. And we have located a couple locations to offer where we can set up warehouses where we can take in the dry goods, as well set up a refrigerated trailer, one for cooling items, one for freezing items, and be able to pick, pack, and ship for the local delivery guys, whether it's ShipNet or whether it's what's the name, the car companies, Uber, whether it's Uber, whether it's Lyft, or how they're and deliver the goods to the local community. And then what's happening is the idea of being able to get the order from the customer and not have to pack it or deliver it within a week allows the owner of the inventory to recognize the cash up front as opposed to paying a week later when the delivery comes. And a lot of people where cash is king see this as a huge opportunity to set up this e-commerce delivery cycle where deliveries might not have to be same day. They possibly can be pushed out 4 or 5 days. We also see back at our warehouses a lot more inventory SKUs we're being asked to carry for our customers because they're keeping less inventory in their stores, possibly because of security reasons, possibly because nobody wants to go in and try on used clothes in a store. So that they're reverting back to the warehouses, and so people can order online. And so we're seeing a bigger component of SKU product inventory in our warehouses so that people can order more online direct from the warehouse.
So Jeff, one of the challenges with more sales being pushed online and the inability to try on right now in store is returns. How does this environment handle returns, and what are you seeing on your end?
Returns have been a big part of our business, and certainly during a pandemic of a health crisis, people are going to look at that a little differently about taking the returns back. So while that is a business unto itself in supply chain, I think that's going to change dramatically. A lot of companies are looking to not accept returns back. It's just too risky for them to consider it. And at the same time, there will be a much more focused from the retailers to right size the orders from an e-commerce perspective, and the ability to be more have more expertise on how to really size up somebody so the amount of returns that have the ability to come back will be limited or reduced significantly.
So I can go through our poll results right now. So in what areas are you investing? 72% said supply chain technology, much greater than any of the others. JoAnn, is that what you would have thought?
It is. When you think about the themes that are out there and the inventory, the stranded inventory that we're starting to hear about, supply chain visibility to me is the place where most people are focused. We've been talking about AI and ML from a forecasting standpoint across the industry and retail. And I think people are starting to see use cases where it's directly applicable and adds significant value, and has almost become not necessarily a should we move there or when would we move there to a we must move now and figure out how to be able to manage these disruptions a little bit more proactively and respond from a forecasting standpoint.
And then the second question, which was in regards to your supply chain, where is your largest pain point? Demand forecasting. I mean, right now, I mean, Jeff, you said it earlier, right? I mean, and actually along those lines, people don't even, retailers don't know how to plan for, the fall, let alone for holiday. What are you seeing, Jeff, on the holiday side?
The holiday side, it's still kind of early yet, but we actually think there will be a decent holiday. It might be the first time that people will really start to feel a little bit more comfortable. We're hoping that, a lot of people, instead of a V recovery or U recovery, they're thinking possibly a W type of recovery, where we think there could be a little bit of an upswing for the holiday season, because a lot of people have basically will be back, hopefully a lot will be back to work by then and in a position to spend some dollars, hopefully. So clients, I think, are already looking towards the end of the year and sort of sacrificing the second and third quarters out there right now. And they're basically forecasting the fourth quarter as the first time there might be a surge back for the economy.
JoAnn, are you also seeing a lot of your clients look at demand forecasting in a different way than they have before?
We are. When you think about it from a retail perspective, there's two components that they're combating right now. One, how do I predict demand short term to be able to figure out how am I going to come out of COVID, and how should I think about this lull in my business? And then how do I plan for next year? Because with supply chain lead times being as long as they are, they need to understand, how do I normalize this time frame next year? So it is definitely a topic of conversation. They're trying to understand which factors to look at, which are more predictive. How do I look at the lowest level of detail to be able to anticipate? And they're also trying to figure out, which we have for a while, but it's more prevalent now, the shifting of channels. With e-commerce growing to the degree it is, how do I manage my, not just my deployment to a specific store of a specific product, but how do I manage my e-commerce business versus my store business? It's a really unique challenge for them right now.
And then the last question was around using AI or ML in the supply chain and forecasting our pricing. And the majority are not. I think this is very challenging. I was at a dinner around NRF and asked a group of CIOs, how many of you have an AI strategy? Every hand went up. How many of you, are implementing that? One hand went up. I think that just getting the talent and the right tools are really critical.
I think so too. I think one of the things to think about too is supportive services and managed services. There's a crawl, walk, run approach to it too. And really building a partner network that helps you to kind of support those efforts and to continue to drive into that space is really important during this time.
Jeff, what are you seeing on that side?
So the AI, we actually have been utilizing AI in our non-asset brokerage. So we have about 9 offices around the country where we look to hire trucking companies to move the goods for us. And so having the data to know typically which carriers run in which lanes and what their pricing is, we have that AI, artificial intelligence, that's telling us which carriers do that and which ones we should be calling, rather than to just go and look at every single carrier in a particular market. We look at the ones that typically like to go in certain lanes, and that's been a huge win for us in creating value for our customers at lower pricing, and as far as on-time service for them as well.
Great. And, I've been surprised during COVID at how important sustainability and with Earth Day, et cetera, I think we're all thinking about this differently, but how important that thread has continued. And one of the reasons I think, retailers are doing pack away as opposed to alternative channels of, disposal of their goods. Jeff, you've always been a true innovator as it relates to sustainability with electric trucks. Can you talk about, what your vision is and what you've executed so far?
So, sure. It's actually electric trucks and solar we've looked at. On the electric truck side, we have probably 30 trucks in Southern California today that are running the electric truck. They only get maybe 125 miles in between charges, so you really can't send them in very long haul environments. But we typically are running them back and forth from LA, the port of LA to Long Beach, back to the warehouses in the Inland Empire. And we're learning what the operating costs are for them. And also what's most important, we really feel eliminating the green gases in the air will the carbon footprint, reduce carbon footprint. That is a huge opportunity to bring value to the society in which we live today. And being a leading innovator in this area, we hope to have at least 50% of our fleet by 2025 all electric. Now, with the price of oil where it is right now, might be 2026, 2027, but the idea being is that if we can take this experiment of what we're doing in Southern California and march that across the country, we think there should be tremendous opportunities to eliminate the carbon footprint or reduce the carbon footprint. On the solar side, especially here in New Jersey, where we've got multiple warehouse locations, we are utilizing solar to sell back to the energy grid at reduced prices. And the idea there is that it's a cheaper cost to utilize solar and absolutely can reduce energy costs, we think 40–50% versus what the power companies are charging today. And we'd like to share that with our clients in our warehouses and reduce the cost. One of our partner landlords, Prologis, is also doing this around the country. And we think New Jersey is got the best incentive package out there today to make the numbers work, and in addition, reduce the carbon footprint again. So we're real excited about both programs, and it gives us a chance for the vision of how we want to help out the economy and the country overall.
Jeff, with the changing landscape that you see of retail and countries closing and opening at different rates with different support from governments, what countries do you see poised to be able to help out post-COVID and have the most advantageous potential for retailers, whether it be from a buying or sourcing standpoint?
So today, Asia, China, is a big player in sourcing goods for the U.S. And they will continue to be a player, for sure. But I do think all these companies in the U.S., where it's the biggest economy in the world, are going to look to get their goods closer to home. And whether that means Mexico, whether that means Canada, whether that means here in the U.S. itself, we feel that those countries will be have an opportunity to expand their business dramatically in serving the U.S. customer base.
One of the challenges that we've heard in terms of onshoring or nearshoring is just, the talent. How do you think about that? And do you think it's, 6, 12, 18 months in terms of, getting people reskilled, from a U.S. perspective or from a, kind of North America perspective?
Deborah, I think right now, because of the amount of unemployment and the unstable economy out there, there will be a lot of talent available and willing to go to work and put their efforts in to learn whatever skill set is necessary to bring value to themselves and their families in this new world. That's just one silver lining that we see as a company, that we can improve the talent out there dramatically, but because a lot more people were going to become available, because unfortunately a lot of companies are not going to be doing all that great, and people are going to want to leave. We look at that as a silver lining to improve the overall talent within our organization.
Great. JoAnn, do you want to kick off our more formal Q&A session?
Sure, absolutely. The first question, Jeff, is do you see department stores building as candidates for conversion to logistics centers, especially in the last mile? How do you see the transformation within department stores and kind of their focus in the future?
I think that's happening already. Companies like Walmart and Target, we're shipping a lot from our warehouses to the stores, and from the stores, these are all e-commerce orders that were called in or done through e-commerce, and they pick up the goods at the stores or they're delivered from the store. So our DC to store business has picked up dramatically for Target and Walmart because of e-commerce. Not necessarily same, what do they call them? Same store sales year over year. It's the growth in the store volume is because they're now e-commerce centers as well. And so I continue to see that as an opportunity for certainly the bigger players out there. To a smaller degree, it depends on the size of the store, how much you can really afford to keep as inventory in that store, in addition to what you're selling as a store versus what you're warehousing as an e-commerce delivery company. But that always will be an opportunity to explore, and I see that as a growth engine in today's world.
Great. The next question is, do you see your clients more likely to keep more inventory on hand going forward once the economy recovers to absorb future supply chain shocks?
As I mentioned earlier, I do believe companies will have more SKUs to support not necessarily the stores, but to support e-commerce in a much bigger way. And the stores will be probably just a a showroom for people to look at, and really maybe they have the kiosk right there where people can order from the store exactly what they want, and it'll come from the warehouses. So we see inventory absolutely increasing. And as a matter of fact, when for JLL and CBRE, because of our warehousing involvement with them, they have us on monthly calls with them as to who is looking for industrial space around the country. They call it tenants in the market. And every single market that we go around in the country, on every one of these calls, Amazon must be 30% of the opportunity looking for space, warehouse space in the marketplace. And so after Amazon, it's Walmart. And so they're all looking to expand their industrial footprint to really accommodate the growth of e-commerce.
Thanks. One of the next question really kind of tags onto a theme that you were talking about the fluctuation of demand that you're seeing and that we're seeing throughout the industry. Are you also seeing an increased push for data transparency across the supply chain?
Absolutely. Data transparency allows one to manage the demand forecast, allows one to the workforce demand forecast, and work much better. And absolutely, that is what is needed for this country to run more efficiently. And the more open clients are and vendors are, the better we all will be. And there'll be something there for everybody to make money on. But you gotta pull down the kimono and share your data, because sharing data allows everybody to end up a winner much easier that way.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that theme to break down those silos a little bit and to have that transparency and to have that commonality of data across to be able to drive that collaboration for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, we have a few more questions. Jeff, we are specialized in new retail and e-commerce in Asia. How do you think NFI can collaborate with us as there is this kind of new normal for retailers in the supply chain?
Well, we could talk right after the call. Would love to do that. We have a whole team of engineers that we could put forth their efforts to work with your team. And, you know, we might not be the right solution, but we certainly will be able to recommend a solution that, being overseas, we may or may not be the right solution there. That's what I'm saying, but we have a lot of contacts, communications over there. We could probably put you with the right people if it's not us.
Right, JoAnn, you want to take us home with one last question?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the questions is do you foresee a reduction in number of SKUs towards narrower and deeper assortments to inventory? So do you see that contraction of choices and the expansion of depth?
As I mentioned earlier with e-commerce, I think there's going to be just the opposite. I think there's going to be more SKUs, more inventory required in the workplace, in the warehouses going forward, because you want to get a sale every time someone goes on the e-commerce website for that company. You got to carry everything, and you have to do it in regional locations so that you can get there in a timely fashion as well. I will tell you this, I will say this, I do think e-commerce in the food, in the cold, cooler and freezer business is going to be huge. And it's happened over the last 7 weeks in a big way. It's probably gone up 3,000, 4,000% in sales, but it might come down once the country opens up, but it will be, it won't come down back to where it is. And it might, instead of 3,000 or 4,000%, it's still going to be increased by at least 1,000%. because people love the format. They love the program. People are used to eating at home again. And we think that's going to be a huge play going forward.
To that question, what we are seeing is that the grocers right now, to stay in stock, are optimizing their assortment to make sure that I think they help build the confidence of their consumers that there aren't these gaping holes in their assortment. So we are seeing that now, but I think that that's a very kind of temporary phenomenon. And then JoAnn, I'm going to actually ask the last question to you. What are some of the leading retailers doing in terms of planning collaboration with their supply partners during this period? What are they collaborating on, and what information are they sharing? Forecasts, projections of future orders, etc.
So what we're seeing is that we are seeing a lot of retailers start to collaborate within their space. So we're seeing, and we're trying to connect customers that have common problems so that they can start to brainstorm together as well. So we are seeing that openness and that transparency with people within the same sectors, and something that we're trying to foster. From a supply chain partner, though, I think that there's a couple things that are happening, right? The first thing, they're looking for cash. So they're looking to see where they can save their cash and whether they should be delaying orders or postponing orders. But they're also looking to technology partners like us to be able to help manage during these times where their workforce may not be optimized, or they may not have the skill sets that we talked about. So really looking to lean on people that can help support some of these advanced technologies and forecasting and supply chain visibility as we bring their teams along and they start to bring it in-house or automate it to a finer degree.
Great. Well, with that, I want to thank JoAnn, my co-host, and Jeff, our special guest. This was fantastic, and looking forward to our next conversation. And Jeff, I will introduce you to the person who is very excited to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks so much.